Welcome back into Occupy Democrats, and it is a Sunday morning for some and an early Sunday afternoon for others. But in this breaking story, I'm not being glib, I'm not being light when I say that this is potentially the end of democracy as we know it in America. And I'm not joking. I'm seriously not joking. I'm going to show that story to you in just a few seconds. Because if you've been at all in the last 9 months listening to what Stephen Miller says on behalf of Donald Trump, you would realize I'm not joking in this breaking story. Bear in mind, they have created a crisis that justifies the real purpose, which is what this story is about. Take a quick listen to Stephen Miller in this sound right here.
This was a huge, a monumental victory for President Trump. The biggest legal win of this administration so far. A total embarrassment for crazy Judge Boasberg, who's been trying to force this president to bring foreign alien terrorists back onto American soil, trying to turn our planes around, trying to empty prisons in foreign countries and bring them back to our soil.
And this is him in Memphis as they charge with military. This
is a all-of-government unlimited support operation.
Oh, it continues.
The Department of Justice, FBI, DEA, ATF, the U.S. Marshal Service, Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol, and Immigrations and Customs Enforcement now have maximum authority.
He's telling you they have everyone.
To find and remove illegal alien gang members from Venezuela that have been responsible for so much misery in this country.
And this is all about protecting the white people.
ATF, DEA, FBI, ICE, Department of War, every resource we have. And they're not going to be sitting behind a desk at a keyboard. We are sending in real cops with guns and badges to go out with you on the street every single night making arrests. What does this mean for you and your family watching at home tonight?
And when he says in this breaking story, what does that mean? It means they have created a clause.
We will liberate this city from the criminal element that has plagued it for generations. This is not just a strategy shift. This is an attitude shift. We are not going to live in an environment anywhere where there is a street that belongs to a criminal, where there is a neighborhood that belongs to a gang. It means.
I'll tell you what he means in this breaking story. While all this chaos has been going on from Elon to Doge to Epstein to everything, they create a little thing called NSPM 7, which basically says if you're not with Trump, you're against him and we will jail you. Check out this story. Breaking news, cracking down the terrifying new memo Trump could use to go after his opposition. The president railed against the enemy from within to generals this week. NPSM 7 could enable the administration to go after anything they see as anti-American. On Tuesday, Donald Trump stood in front of more than 800 generals and admirals in the U.S. military and informed them of their new enemy, their fellow Americans. In quotes, "Our history is filled with military heroes who took on all enemies, foreign and domestic," Trump said. You know that phrase very well. That's what the oath says, foreign and domestic. Well, we also have domestic. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Grover Cleveland, George Bush, and others all used the armed forces to keep domestic order and peace. Now they like to say, oh, you're not allowed to use the military. Trump went on in that speech to refer to both the enemy from within and a new war, a war from within, that generals would be asked to fight in case there was any ambiguity about which enemies here in the United States the president is intent on targeting, either with the military or other arms of the federal government. A national security directive published this week before his speech spelled it out. Anyone who is not with him will be considered against him and against the United States. On September 25th, the White House released NSPM 7, a sweeping order targeting anti-fascist, anti-Christian, anti-capitalist, and anti-American speech, as well as speech that expresses support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, race, and gender, and hostility toward those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality. The memo announced a new strategy to investigate and disrupt networks, entities, and organizations that foment political violence so that law enforcement can intervene in criminal conspiracies before they result in violent political acts. There is little debate that political violence is on the rise, and a recent poll showed that increasing numbers of Americans view such violence as necessary to get the country back on track. The problem is that the vast majority of the political violence of it is not coming from the places that Trump via NSPM 7 is ordering federal law enforcement to look. This week, before Trump's new memo went out, the Department of Justice removed a report from its website that showed the number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violent extremism. White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson inadvertently cited similar statistics when she posted a chart with the headline, "Left-wing terrorism climbs to a 30-year high," a chart that shows that since 2016, there have been almost 4 times as many attacks by right-wing terrorists as attacks by left-wingers. The scrubbed report cites a U.S. Department of Homeland Security threat assessment concluded that these extremists are an acute threat, while adding that COVID-19 pandemic-related stressors, longstanding ideological grievances related to immigration, and narratives surrounding electoral fraud will continue to serve as justification for violent actions. But the same week as Trump's speech, and amid the administration's new crackdown, Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, announced that the agency has cut ties with both the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center, 2 of the nation's leading anti-hate groups devoted to combating anti-Semitism and white nationalism, respectively. This after a lobbying campaign by right-wing influencers. Representative Ro Khanna, Democratic from California, who ran for Congress in 2003 against Patriot Act, called NSPM 7 an even greater infringement on freedoms. In an email to Rolling Stone, Khanna wrote, "The threat of retaliation is intended to silence people and give the administration the authority to go after political opponents." In quotes, after one of the most harrowing weeks in our First Amendment rights, the president is invoking political violence, which we all condemn, as an excuse to target nonprofits and activists with the false and stigmatizing label of domestic terrorism, Shamsi said in a statement. A slew of law firms have issued their own guidance warning about the expansive threat posed by the memo, while more than 3,000 nonprofits have raised their own concerns about the memo, publishing an open letter criticizing NSPM 7. The attack on nonprofits is not happening in a vacuum, but as a part of a wholesale offensive against organizations and individuals that advocate for ideas or serve communities that the president finds objectionable, and that seek to enforce the rule of law against the federal government, the nonprofit's letter read. Whether the target is a church, environmental, or good government group, a refugee assistance organization, university, a law firm, or a former or current government official weaponizing the executive branch to punish their speech or their views is illegal and wrong. Matthew Sanderson, director of the political law group Kaplan and Drysdale, one of the law firms that issued guidance about NSPM 7, said that while the operative aspects of the memo are tailored specifically to investigate political violence, terrorism, or conspiracy against rights, he was struck by the language White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller used at a press conference announcing the directive. He used the term whole of government several times, and so I don't think this is a mere messaging vehicle, as some executive orders are, Sanderson says. I think this means something will have long-lasting consequences. How NSPM 7 will ultimately be enforced is yet to be seen, but if there are 3 things that Donald Trump has made clear since returning to power, they are that he is not timid about going after his enemies. As Adam Schiff, Democrat from California, New York Attorney General Tish James, former FBI Director James Comey, and many others can attest that he is willing to shut down speech he doesn't like, just ask Jimmy Kimmel, and that he is absolutely itching to send in troops to the American cities. Speaking of Memphis, the latest Democratic-led city where Trump is sending the National Guard to, and a city where crime in the city hit a 25-year low in September, Miller drove home just how lopsided a fight with an emboldened Trump administration might be. In quotes, "The gangbangers that you deal with, they think they're ruthless. They have no idea how ruthless we are. They think they're tough. They have no idea how tough we are," Miller said. "They think that they're hardcore. We are so much more hardcore than they are, and we have the entire weight of the United States government behind us. What do they have?" That is what is coming, and it unfortunately is not a joke. So please, there's nothing else for me to say. Like, share this video everywhere you can. Subscribe to the channel because, holy smokes, this is why I say stay frosty.